Our third faculty awardee is Makeba Parramore Wilbourn, Associate Professor of the Practice of Psychology and Neuroscience. And she will be introduced by Gregory Samanas Larkin, Jack H. Neely, Associate Professor of Psychology and Neuroscience.
So it's such an honor to introduce Makeba. She's a colleague, a friend who has honestly become one of my own role models as we've bonded over our shared passions for lifting people up, inclusion, and 90s hip hop. Makeba herself grew up in Long Beach, California. Then she hit the east side of the LBC to attend Cal State Fullerton, where she earned a bachelor's in psychology. From there, she was on a mission trying to finish a PhD at Cornell University in developmental psychology, then on to bigger, better things as an assistant professor of psychology and neuroscience here at Duke, straight out of grad school. As an assistant professor, Makeba won an NSF Career Award and then received the prestigious Presidential Early Career Award for Scientists and Engineers from Barack Obama. Her career award morphed into an undergraduate research program that's now funded by an NSF RU grant. To paraphrase the great Lee Baker, what Makeba does is worth so much more than accumulating journal articles. In Makeba's nomination letter, she was referred to as one of the most slept on superstar mentors here at Duke University. Not anymore. So it brings me so much joy that she's being recognized this year because so much of her mentorship has been behind the scenes. She mentors so many of us in psychology and neuroscience, faculty, grad students across our labs, and so many undergraduates. We're all lucky to have Makeba as a colleague, a mentor, a friend. Congrats again, Makeba.
I don't think it's fair that I'm going at the end because, you know, I was struggling with the first one. Thank you, Greg, for rhyming in the introduction. I will say that gives me even a little bit more joy. But I first want to say that as you are progressing in this field, there's all these milestones that you always are looking towards. And the first time you get a publication and, you know, that when you get your PhD, but no one really ever tells you the meaning of what it's like to have a student look at you or to have a mentee look at you and say, if it weren't for you, I. And those are the sorts of sentences that I want to convey that stop you. And the reason why they're so impactful is that I would not be here at all today if it weren't for incredible mentors in my life. And, you know, the first mentor in my life is my mom. And so as a single mom, you know, she had two daughters who were, you know, not easy to raise. And she wasn't able to go to college and pursue the career of her dreams. So she did what all really committed moms do. She fought tooth and nail to make sure that her girls could. And so while she didn't always know how to help me navigate college and what was next, she was always the biggest cheerleader. And the advice that she gave me was not always specific to classes or how to navigate certain, you know, professional circumstances, but it was things like be authentic, be real, be you. And that pride isn't about things that show up on paper. Pride is about the things that sometimes no one else sees. And that's the impact and the legacy you leave is not in your achievements, but in the people that you touch and the people that you help and the people who leave you better than when they came to you. And that has been the foundation that has guided me through all of the twists and turns. I tell my Duke students all the time, like, I wasn't supposed to be here. And I'm not saying that in any sort of self-deprecation. I'm well equipped to be here, but I wasn't supposed to be. And what that means is that I didn't necessarily have the path that a lot of our Duke undergrads and a lot of our graduate students have. I was all over the place. And so it was along the way that I had people who were able to just sort of nudge me. And the little things had a huge impact. So in my undergrad, listen, my high school counselor told me that I didn't really have what it takes to do a 4-year. And so as a student of color, and I didn't even question it. So I just went straight to a junior college. I didn't even apply to a 4-year school. I didn't even try. So I went junior college route. then I went on, and I then didn't know what I wanted. I wanted to sort of act, of course, because I'm a Southern California kid, and that's what we all do. We all have our Z cards, and we go on, commercial auditions. You can tell that went really well. So my mother, after a year after graduation, said, "I'm very proud of you, honey, but you either have to get a job or go back to school because you got to pay rent." So between paying rent or going back to school, I, of course, did the choice that all good, 20 somethings. I went back to school. I didn't know what Evita was. I thought people were talking about the movie with Madonna. I'm not kidding. I tell my graduate students this, the first year seminar, everyone kept talking about their Evita. And I thought, she wasn't even that good in that movie. Why is everyone talking about it? I did not know what a CV or Evita was. And the department chair at the time, I ran into him in the parking lot, and I made some comment about, like, I don't know what I'm doing. And he said, "Well, come by my office. I would love to talk to you a little bit more about that." Halfway through the first semester, I'm ready to quit. I finally figured out that it's not the Madonna movie, but I literally on my CV had a waitressing, and I did a Buffy the Vampire a Vampire Slayer commercial. Those were literally the two things I had on my Vita. And since we don't have the same computer technology, I don't actually still have that, but I would love to show the graduate students that and then say, like, and I'm your mentor. But I went into this meeting and I said, I'm just not cut out for this. Like, I don't fit here. And Dr. Key said to me, "Do you think I'm a smart man?" And I remember thinking, this is like a trick question, right? And so he went to, Berkeley, PhD. So I answered, yes, of course, I think you're a smart man. He said, "Well, I see more in you than you do. So if you quit, you're telling me you don't trust what I see in you." Well, that was genius hustle, right? So now I can't quit because he'll be disappointed in me. And then, so I stayed, and I will never forget that phrase, "I see more in you than you see in yourself." And so then I went on to a PhD because I still didn't want to pay rent. And so basically I went into my master's advisor and I said, "Okay, here's the schools I can get into." And he took the list that I had formatted beautifully, by the way, with probably Cosmic Sans font. And I said, "This is the list." And he tore it up. And he said, "I don't want you to give me the list of schools you think you can get into. I want you to give me the list of schools that you think deserve you." Again, I thought, like, what? So I applied everywhere, even Cornell. And I thought I was going to get a trip to New York City, at least, because Cornell is in New York, right? That's what happens when you haven't ever been on a plane before you go to grad school interview. So upstate New York was quite different than Manhattan. So I went to Cornell, and I kept thinking they were going to kick me out for sure. I had two incredible mentors, Marianella Casasola and Steve Robertson, who always told me, "You're meant to be here, even if you don't feel like you are. When you're the only Black student in the room, that's a big toll, but you're meant to be here." So then I finished that PhD, had two beautiful babies, my most impressive, incredible accomplishments ever. And then I came to Duke scared, straight out of PhD, had no idea what the heck I was doing. And then I met Dr. Linda Burton. And I kept saying, "I'm not meant to be here. Like, this is too much for me. Like, I had a good go, right? Like, this is a good go, right? Like, if we called it quits tomorrow, like, this was still more than I was supposed to be." And Linda said, "I see in you that fire that I had in me." And I kept thinking, are you kidding me? If I could be a quarter of the woman that Linda Burton is, like, I'm so successful. So she kept saying, "You can do this. I see you. I see you." So I took all of these incredible humans and I channeled them in to every time I mentored incredible students. Greg and Sarah and Brenda are the people who kept me grounded. And I think about my first cohort, Channing and Jackie and Laura and Ashley and Meredith and Paula. I had no idea what I was doing. You guys were my first. We were figuring it out together. And Kristen and Kelsey, my first two grad students, we just had a good time focusing on the questions and not focusing on whether we were enough or not. And I thank you two in particular for teaching me what it means to share not only knowledge, experience, but your fears, your insecurities. Because if I didn't have those people believing in me, I wouldn't know exactly what my students needed to hear. That I see you, you can do this, you're enough. The list goes on, Prim and Stephen and Arlenis. The most pride I have as a career is this award, because it is really the thing that gets not talked about, but it's the thing that keeps us as humans and as the scholars. It's what we contribute to the rest of our field. It's not just their incredible scholarship, it's that they're incredible humans and they've been nurtured and they know they can always come back, and I will pick them up, dust them off and tell them, you're enough. I see you, you can do this. And I'm always here, as I also reach back to Linda and my mom and my mentors, and they do the same for me. So Greg and my colleagues, thank you for honoring me with this, and my students, thank you for reminding me every day that I'm enough. I can do this, and we're in this together.